let's go to our first and only guest. It's very rare, by the way. It's extremely rare that we only have one guest on this program, but there are certain people who can carry their own weight. There are certain draws in this business who are A-plus listers, who you just need one name on the marquee. That's it. And so we are being honored on this lovely Tuesday, February 4th, by the one and only, the inimitable, the bad guy himself, my old friend, my old co-host, one half of the coaching staff of The Ultimate Fighter Season 33, Chael P. It's good to see you again. How are you?
That was the most beautiful and sincere welcome I think you've ever given me. I was doing good when I got here. I'm better now. And thank you for, hey, I do need a favor today before we get going. Can I talk to you about something?
Yeah, please, please. There's so much.
I'm doing The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it with DC.
Yes.
And that has confused so many people. So DC stands for Daniel Cormier.
Yes.
And this guy was a fighter. This guy was good too. You go back and watch him. He was good with the takedowns, and he beat Pat Cummings one time. I can't believe that more people don't remember him. And I will admit, I also shared in the confusion. When they asked me to come and do The Ultimate Fighter with Daniel Cormier, I thought they were asking me to come out and coach Daniel Cormier. I was as surprised as anybody when he was also given a jersey. But if Bersari and Zach and the crew, if they edit this thing just right, we can have success in spite of Daniel.
Okay, so you thought that you were actually being brought in to coach him?
Yes. I assumed. It was written that way. The thing was a text message. You know, will you do tough? And Daniel Cormier's name was in there. Maybe they call him like these initials. Sometimes they call him DC. And it's weird. He's one up of a big show on ESPN called The Bad Guy with the other guy.
Yeah.
He's the other guy. But because of that, that's just like, I don't know, man. I really feel like he's been getting disrespected a lot through this process.
No, I agree.
They were showing us the set. They walked us through like virtually, and they said, okay, here's where the mat is, and here's where the cage is, and here's the locker rooms. They said, do you have any questions? I said, well, yeah. Is there a place I can stash a couple of roast beef sandwiches in case Daniel gets hungry? Like, I'm not saying we're going to need them. I'm saying it's better to not need it and have it than to not have it when you need it.
That's a good point. Can I be honest with you? I thought you were just about to ask me when you said, can I ask you a favor? And I was ready to say yes. I was ready to jump and say how high. Is everything okay?
Absolutely. Miss Brittany's here. Miss Brittany just went and got a drink, but she didn't know if she could bring it.
What a great honor.
Oh,
there she is.
This girl is a bomb rock. You ever seen how hot Miss Brittany is?
Can I ask Miss Brittany a question?
Yeah.
Does she still pack your bags when you go on trips? Does she lay it all out? And
absolutely.
And what's the thought process?
Everything I'm wearing now, in socks and underwear, was laid out this morning.
Wow. Oh,
yes.
It's even on non-road trips? It's on regular days?
Every single day it gets set. She just yelled, of course, in the background. Every single day it gets. I don't even know where the luggage is. I'm not attempting to be funny right now. I don't know where we store the luggage. I wouldn't even know where to get the thing to.
Wow.
And then begin to pack it. And you know that. And by the way, I do not expect that. I am saying this from a perspective of gratitude. Like that is a very kind thing to start to do for somebody. She started it 13 years ago. I don't even know.
I'm jealous, if I'm being honest. Yeah. Now, my question is, do you ever get mad? Do you ever say like, you know what? I didn't want that shirt. Miss Brittany, why did you have to pack that one? Don't you know I don't like this one? Do you ever offer critique? And if so, how does that land?
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing, Ariel.
Yeah.
I am very rich. I should not have days where my socks don't match.
Ooh,
okay?
Yeah.
They should always match. And I should not have days where I go to the underwear drawer and where I'm out of underwear. Oh, we got to go do some laundry. I have like 7 pairs of underwear, and they're all the same brand, so like they look cool in the drawer. But if you don't have more underwear, it's easy to run out, and that does upset me. I do not think a rich man should have to run out of underwear and socks.
Okay. And are you implying that you do sometimes?
Yes.
Wow.
I did not go fight all those men so that I can't have clean underwear and socks. I did not go rob those banks. I didn't break those rules. I didn't cheat those commissions to not have socks and underwear. In fact, I even thought to myself, before I go make these decisions and I sell my soul, can I get socks and underwear out of the deal? And when the answer was yes, I proceeded, Ariel.
And is this the first she's hearing about it? Like, will this cause a rift?
No, she's shaking her head. Oh, she looks so pretty right now. You should see her. She looks so pretty. No, she's shaking her head. No, it is true that my socks don't always match and my underwear goes empty. She just doesn't feel that is her fault. She does not see how if I go through 3 pairs of underwear a
I
day
agree. I agree.
because I do a workout or I go and run the kids' practice, that then when the drawer is empty, that should be expected. I think you go to online and you order Chael a few more pairs of Tom Fords.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree 100% with her on this one. Can I also just say that, you know, it's amazing to see her in this presence, and I'm wondering, is she there to sort of police you? Because sometimes it goes off the rails with you and I, and it's been a lot of people got hurt. A lot of, you know, there's been a lot of hurt feelings. So is she here to make sure that you keep it professional?
Yes,
Okay.
she actually is. She's a massive Ariel supporter, much like my mom is. When you and I get a tip, her and my mom get mad at me instead of sharing my anger with you. But yeah, that might be exactly why she's here. By the way, it's something I was going to tell you. What were we talking about? Oh,
yeah, I wanted to tell you something too. Go ahead. Yeah.
Can I go first? Because it's about the Royal Rumble.
Oh my gosh. Oh wait. First, before we get off the tough thing. I thought you were going to ask me to be one of your coaches, and so I've been waiting here for the text. I've been waiting.
I would love it.
Okay, so like, am I in or what?
I would love. I will definitely make a day. I think that you're trying to. I think that you're being funny right now. But you really come to town and you wanted to come in and probably just talk to the guys. Probably have you like come in and talk to them about being a professional and discipline and keeping your eye on the ball. Because Ariel, they do a great job.
Yeah,
Dana does a great job of capturing the physical tryingness of this process. You're going to weigh in 3 times. You're going to fight 3 men. He could be the guy sleeping across the hall. He could be your best friend through the process, and you got to go out and compete with him, making weight, being in the saunas. Like, he does a great job of showing that. But Ariel, there is a whole battle that I think is bigger, and it's the mental battle. The fact that you're going to have breakfast with somebody. You might even help him cook his eggs, and he makes your bacon, like make a little trade like that. Then you get in a car. You drive to the arena, you fight each other. You try to damage and hurt one another, not to mention taking the other guy's dream and aspirations away. Then you're supposed to get back in the van. His head is hanging. He can't even call his mom or his wife. You can't celebrate because you be a jerk, even though you feel good about yourself for what you just did. Then you go back to the house. You sit down at another table known as the dinner table. And you break bread again before you go upstairs and go to sleep. I mean, it is the Ultimate Fighter is so incredibly difficult. And the true veterans of it really do deserve credit and respect. And all you got to do to be a veteran, I don't mean to win it. I'm talking about you start on the first day, you make it through the process, because most guys want to quit at some point.
This is so good. This is so amazing. How did they come to you with this? How did it, like, what are the embryonic stages of this? How did this happen?
Sure. I got a phone call, and it was actually from Daniel. And Daniel had talked with Shelby, and somehow Daniel got tasked with being the one that presents it to Uncle Chael. And I think they thought there was going to be a level of resistance. I was actually very much for it. I got to check with Clayton real fast, make sure the dates worked out, and then we just went from there. Don't forget, Clayton lives in Nevada now. So this wasn't a problem at all. He's got to miss the 14th. That's his birthday, and Valentine's Day. They got a little thing going. But other than that, no, we're ready to go. And Grandpa got a hold of Colby. Vinny's always there. No, we're ready to go.
And how did the family feel? I mean, it's a big commitment, right? It's like 5 weeks, 6 weeks, right?
6 weeks, and they're coming with me.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and I must tell you, my wife and I were very torn on this, because if you take kids out of school, like I can remember parents that did that didn't take school and each day seriously. But those kids turned out a certain way. Like, it's very important that your kid is in school. And we're talking about removing them for 38 days. And we were very torn on that. But we worked with the school, the principal specifically. We found a tutor. There's going to be some online stuff. So we're going to do it. We're going to take them. And we got the new, with the laptops and the Google Hangout, it's called. And so we'll be communicating with the school. But that was probably the hardest part. I got to take my dogs. I got to take both my cats.
Wow.
Like 38 days that's a meaningful amount of time to be gone. So we're driving out there because I got to take Duke and Rosa, and I got to take Hulk and Lily. So there's the answer to your question. I'm moving to Las Vegas. I'm moving to Vegas for 38 days.
Was there any discussion just floated, even like thrown out? Hey, when this is over, you and Daniel compete.
Oh, God. That is still being discussed, because they've started this new grappling. They're doing this grappling. So it's just being discussed, that it's supposed to be a little bit friendly. It's like, Dana, please. do not make that audience stare at that man with his shirt off. Stop. And I kept talking to him about this. I said, please, this guy was once a fighter. This guy fought for you. And Dan said, who did? I said, he fought for you. He was in your organization. He did it under the name Daniel Cormier. He goes, are you talking about that Cormier guy? I said, man, ignore the R. Pretend the R is an A. Trust me, that's the guy that beat Pat Cummins.
Okay, so it's off the table.
Well, I would hope. I just think that would be very terrible. I don't think the audience.
You could do with a rash guard.
Can I ask you another question?
Yeah, let's talk.
Because you see through the performance. But do you see how well the performance is done? I mean, when Daniel thought he and Sean were going to team up against me, thought they were going to team up to get me so that they have a show. Do you really think he thought that through? Like, does he know what he's getting into? Really, does he have any idea what 38 days with Chael P can be like?
No.
If Chael wants it to be a certain way?
No, I mean, I think it's a phenomenal idea. I love everything about it. I would love to see some sort of wrestling, grappling, I don't know, something at the end. Just old school, like we need a payoff because remember, we didn't get the payoff with Chandler and McGregor. Like we need to go old school. No? Gotta have a payoff.
You gotta have the payoff, yes.
There has to be something. What are we coaching for here? What are we doing? But I want to get to your Royal Rumble thing. What did you want to ask me? Because I saw you were tweeting up a storm about the Royal Rumble. And you know, we had a guy yesterday on the program, I don't know if you saw this, shouting you out. Did you see this?
I saw Joe.
There he is.
I loved it. I thought Joe has been a gentleman to me, though. That's not Joe's first time treating me that way. I do appreciate that, and I do return that. He came out number 15, and my son and I popped.
Yes,
we popped when he popped through the curtains. He was wearing the belt, man. He looked cool.
He looks awesome. Fantastic, but he told me about a story of him DMing you way back in the day. I have to say, it reminded me very much of you and Oban Elliott. People know you as the bad guy, Chael, but in reality, you give back to the business. You put guys over. You give them the blueprint. And so how many Joes and how many Obans are there out there? Because now they're all the guys that were teenagers, kids, when you were doing your thing against Anderson and cutting promos, UFC 136 and all this stuff. Now they're all becoming pros themselves. So now all these stories, there's a thing. Let me educate you, if I can, for a moment. There's a great documentary on Netflix called The Carter Effect. It's about how Vince Carter, the basketball player, changed the way young Canadians feel about basketball. And all these little kids who saw Vince Carter come to Canada in 1998, 1999 are now pros and have now transformed basketball in Canada. What we are seeing now is the Sonnen effect. We're seeing all these people who looked up to you as kids now become professionals, and stories are coming out of the woodwork about how you helped them and showed them the blueprint. So my question is, how many more of these are out there?
Well, I will tell you, that was very nice to hear. If you can reach me, I'm not the world's easiest guy to get. I'm sure you can relate. But if somebody could, if they can circumvent the game or they could do the DM the right way or whatever it is, if you can reach me, the answer will be yes. Whatever it is you're going to ask me for, you are going to get. And so in Joe's situation or in Oban's situation, it was just a little advice, just a little time. And for somebody young and inspiring, they asked me, do I got some time? Absolutely, I got time for you.
I love it. By the way, speaking of,
because I don't find time, Ariel, I make time.
Yeah, no, that's what real.
Did you hear earlier when I said roast beef sandwich for Daniel? I said a couple, by the way. That was the brilliance. I said, yeah, is there somewhere to stash a couple of roast beef sandwiches for Daniel? Like, that's brilliant work right there. That's G-rated. That's simple kinds of stuff. That's like the Will Smith of rap music. He doesn't have to curse to sell albums.
You've shared
some do, so F him and F you too. I mean, right? Like, this is brilliant.
Wow, you almost dropped an F-bomb right there in front of your wife?
No, you know who said that was Eminem. He said, Will Smith doesn't have to curse to sell albums, but I do. So F him and F you do. That's just a great line. It's a great line.
By the way, your finest hour, I think, at least of the last 4 or 5 years, was that I've never laughed so hard. You answering your phone after the whole Gilbert Burns situation. I mean, that might have been, honestly, because I've had this happen to me, Chael, and for you to do that, I passed it off to everyone, to Leah, to Zeus, to all our old colleagues. I said, this might be Chael's finest hour. This might be his greatest piece of work of all time. How did you turn such a negative into a positive? And did you clear the air with Gilbert? That wasn't a very nice thing to do. If you ask me, I thought that was crossing the line.
I don't think Gilbert knows what an inconvenience he put me through. Because Gilbert's one of the nicest guys you're going to, like, that's an expression. He's the nicest guy you'll ever meet. It actually might be Gilbert Burns. He might actually be number one on that expression. I do not think he would have done that. And it wasn't equitable. Like his response, he shut me down for weeks. He shut me down. I got locked out of this phone. I stashed the phone. Then it turns out there was Bitcoin on the phone. I forgot what the codes are, and I got to go. I mean, this has been, no, I got it. Everything worked out. But I'm just saying, like, this took weeks to rectify. And there was a little bit of a confusion, though. And Gilbert Burns was genuinely hurt. I hurt his feelings. I had disrespected him. And what I had said was, Gilbert's retired. I was talking with Daniel, and Daniel was trying to, like, find an opponent. It might have even been Colby for Gilbert. And I just stopped him and said, oh, Gilbert's ranked number 7, but he actually retired. I thought he had. I was backing him up. I mean, that was my point. I was just backing him up. Like, hey, don't go put him in a fight. And then he's going to say he doesn't want to do the fight. Like, I was trying to get in front of it to help him. I was wrong. Whatever it was that he said where I thought that was a walkaway speech, I was wrong. But yeah, it was a big payback. You know, I did that to Chad Mendez one time. He hurt my feelings. And I warned him. I said, you have 5 minutes to get back to me. And then a minute later, I text him the number 4. And a minute later, I text him the number 3. Then I text him the number 2. And then I tweeted out his phone number. The next day, he gets announced. He's going to fight Conor in place of Aldo for the world title. Like, there was never a more important time in Chad's life to have his telephone. And I screwed him. He had to go he was so busy, he had to go down to like they were following him around the cameras, and they had to follow him to the Verizon store because he had to get a new telephone. Oh, God, I felt so bad. I have tried to make that up to Chad for like 15 years. I go out of my way to be overly nice to Chad because I did that to him, so I kind of had it coming.
Why did you do that? I vaguely remember this, but why did you do it?
I was trying to get him on the podcast. I was trying to line him up. And, you know, and his star was kind of bright right then. And I thought I should have an inside track because I knew him way back when, like one of these things. He hurt my feelings. That's what it was. He didn't come on. You know, I've only had one person tell me no. Now I've had people where the answer is no, but they will say nothing at all. Kevin Nash took the time to write me back to let me know that he was not interested in being a guest on my show. I just always appreciated it. Like, why? Why did you why didn't you just delete it and move on with your life?
What was his reason?
He didn't get one. He said, nah, man, I'm good. I'm going to pass.
Wow.
And then he wrote KN. He didn't even sign it. He just put his initials, KN, which was pretty badass, quite frankly. Kevin Nash is a cool big guy, and there's not a lot of cool big guys. Really big guys are generally awkward.
Yeah.
But, like, if you go back and you want to watch a killer face-off, it's when Goldberg does his whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then Kevin Nash, they throw the camera to Nash, and he simply does this, and the crowd goes crazy. The crowd goes crazy. That's the night he beat Goldberg. He pinned Goldberg 1, 2, 3. Goldberg's still upset about that.
With the taser. So what did you think of the Rumble?
Okay.
Tell me.
I have a lot of thoughts on the Rumble.
Please.
First off, it's very sad for me when Dominic Mysterio has to go through everything that he has to go through, and then he doesn't get a little bit of shine. And the number that he drew, I thought, and it was an outside chance, but I thought maybe there would be some rectification. Maybe there's proof that there's a God in heaven above that will smile down and finally give Dominic the opportunity. It didn't happen. But when Logan Paul came out number 30, there is so much on that decision from an artistic standpoint, Ariel. There is so much interpretation. If you're going to have Logan, you're going to have the guy that's been spoon-fed everything. You're going to have the guy that's this mega superstar, and nobody even knows if he's trained the damn sport before, and he's over. And you're going to let him come to the Royal Rumble to start with. I mean, let's just start with how the hell he even got into the Royal Rumble. But once you're there, you're going to walk him number 30. You're going to give him the greatest opportunity of all the boys. Like there is such a message in that placement, and I was so impressed by it. I was so impressed by the fact that they took the guy that likely doesn't belong and not only put him in the absolute best spot. I was getting worried towards the end of the night. I thought that there was a good chance Cena was going over. And that would have been a very big mistake, but it's a mistake that would have been made prior to the match. Like, they didn't know he was going to get out there and have a bald spot. They didn't know he was going to get out there and hadn't been to the tanning beds, and he's a little bit bent over. And it was one of these things. You don't know. So if you give that order back in Guerrilla, they go out there and start working. He comes out on top. You got to figure out, how do I go to Mania with this old man?
Yeah. So do you like the decision of going with Jay?
It surprised me.
Which is great, right? Isn't that what you want?
Yes. Yes. I did like it. It surprised me. And I know that he's ultimately going to draw into Cody, even though that's not officially stated yet. But I just think that match needs a lot of work. And they'll do it. They'll make it work. But generally speaking, in WrestleMania's past, we're further along with the storyline than we are right. We are nowhere with this storyline. This dude's got no business with Cody whatsoever. So I think that part of it is interesting.
You don't think there's any way that he goes for Gunther and they have Cody go up against Cena?
Yeah, maybe. Well, and you got Roman and Seth, and there was something very big that happened there. I even talked to CM Punk about it. There was something very big, and it was the spot that they recorded the most, aside from the actual match, which is the guys outside. I'm talking about Seth Rollins. CM Punk ends up in some kind of a street fight. Like he even was slipping some potatoes in when he was kicking a guy. Roman Reigns, I mean, that dude can't sneeze and have it not work. He's so damn handsome, and he just looks this part, right? So the three of them get into something, but I didn't think that story was told completely. We, the audience, were supposed to gather something from those three fighting. But we didn't. We somehow missed it, or the announcers didn't get us there. But there was for sure a story. Yes, there's a story right here that's being told. Evident of the fact that this is the longest that the cameras filmed action aside from what was inside the ring. And I think that ties in, though, partner. I'm letting you know, because you asked me about Gunther. Yes, there is a chance that it's Gunther, and there is a chance that Cody goes with one of those three, which, to my point about being a further along proposition, I think we'd agree that it would be.
Did you see the crowd crapping on Charlotte yesterday?
Yes. She deserved it.
Why?
That was bad.
Why?
It was bad.
What was bad?
Well, I don't really want to pile on. I would have happily cut the promo on Charlotte and told you the things that were wrong with it, had everybody else not noticed it. Like if it was just me. So I don't want to give her, there's a great moment here, and we're off to WrestleMania, and the one company that won't go woke is gone. These women are in the main event. Woo! Yeah, this is great. I mean, I can play along to an extent, but she was out for a minute, and she made a comeback, and that's hard to do. And I think maybe that part should be celebrated. Maybe I'll word it like that today.
Sure. I appreciate you doing that. I will say, you saw the difference between the men and women's Rumble. They got the women's Rumble so wrong. They got the men's Rumble so right. Because the men's Rumble was a surprise. It came out of nowhere. It was unpredictable. It's everything we want out of wrestling, right? We want to suspend disbelief and think that on any given night, especially in the Rumble, someone who needs it gets the rub from the Rumble, and now they're viewed in a main event light, right? Cena doesn't need that. Punk doesn't even need it. Charlotte doesn't need it, and everyone saw it coming a million miles away. She didn't look great out there in terms of her technique, in terms of how she wrestled. There are at least 5 other people who deserve that more and who would have benefited from it more. And so, as much as I thought they got the men's Rumble right, they got the women's Rumble wrong.
Sure, I fully agree with that. And it's hard to get them both right, and it's a little bit long. I mean, as a whole, but whoever came up with the Rumble, I mean, that really is one of the greats. Every 1 minute, the crowd's waiting to hear that music. It is awesome, man. They do such a good job. What a basic spot, too, when Cena's got him up. And he's all he's got to do is drop him forward, but, he goes back over. They just barely pushes John in the back, and John just plops down, lands on both feet. That was the most simple exit that we saw all night, without question. I mean, he touched his back, and he fell to both feet. It was, again, from an artistic standpoint, this was brilliant stuff. John does not take any kind of a bump. This is his final time. John passes the torch in an appropriate way. Like, this was such a cool moment because of how basic they let him go. I mean, John lands on both feet. He lands on both feet. It's just like, oh my gosh, what just happened? That's very realistic, Ariel. That's what would realistically happen if people were doing. That was a great spot, man. They did such a good job. They really did. 70,000 people.
Yeah.
They got 70,000 people there. They counterbalance. They let they usually been playing on Sundays. These pay-per-views. So they play it Saturday in front of 70,000. TKO, which owns the UFC, I got to get up at 5 o'clock my time to watch that product, which was ending by the time my family was having our lunch. And I'm just saying, for one day, they're in two different continents. They're doing two different sold out pieces of business. They've got network deals and sponsorship deals.
Crushing.
That is fascinating to me.
Crushing.
But I did not think Ari could pull this off. If you really want the truth, when Ari came in and put a valuation of $11 billion on the UFC, and this is years after he's already put $4+ billion on the UFC. Ari came out publicly and said that he values TKO, which only owns the WWE and the UFC, at $22 billion. Ariel, you cannot exaggerate in that position. If you come out and exaggerate in that position, somebody can end up in handcuffs. And I remember being worried when Ari made that claim. Now, Ariel, it's only been a year and a half. They're $50 billion. Their stock price was $70 when Ari Emanuel made that claim. They're $157 as I sit here right now. That's just a little over a year later. That is amazing.
And more to come with the TV deals and whatnot. Can I ask, when are you going to cross over? When are you going to cross?
Come.
When are you going to cross?
I appreciate you saying that. There's more to come. Like, we don't know where this is going to go, or if some of the bosses are going to get their way. Dana was very big. Dana did not want that broken up. He believed we really need to focus, and the audience knows where to go and find us. But now they are talking like the football and the baseball. Yeah. You know, you can put some over here and some over here, and that is just where the world's at. And if they succeed and they do break it up, I mean, yes, then this $157 valuation. You know, me saying that it's worth $50 billion based on those numbers. Come on, Ariel, it could be $100 billion, and I would not have predicted that for this industry. Now that what the UFC is doing right now, to be able to sell out arenas that are non-pay-per-views, to go and do something like they did this weekend, or I got to be part of Colby's show that was in December. That was the biggest fight that we had in December. They had more people, and the live gate was slightly under the pay-per-view, but I mean, they're doing multi-million-dollar for just their Saturday shows, and that's old school Vince McMahon. Vince used to do that. You know, whether it was Saturday night's main event, but each Saturday there'd be something somewhere. And so this business model's been out there. It's a matter of having your company catch up. It's a very interesting time to really study the inner workings of what is now known as TKO.
Yes, and both worlds coming together makes it even more interesting for longtime fans like you and I. When are we going to see you cross over? It's never been easier for a UFC guy to cross over. We've seen other people do. Like, I feel like it's high time. Chael P on WWE programming. This has to be in the works.
You know what I would like an opportunity for? If Dana and this boxing, if this gets going, I would like an opportunity to call boxing. In fact, I would like to call boxing with you, but I would like an opportunity to call boxing, and that's a very hard thing to break into, and they don't see me that way. They see I'm the MMA guy, and they keep me in this box, and if I could just get that opportunity once, I really think I would entertain you. I can
boxing more than wrestling.
Left and a right hand are, but yeah, you know what? I don't know. That's just really never happened. Look at Pat McAfee, by the way. He's doing such a great job. I went and got a haircut, Ariel, and I told the woman, I said, can you do it a little shorter on the sides, but I'm trying to grow the top out. It's a little longer on top. I'm trying to grow it out. Those were my exact words. And she says to me, oh, the Pat McAfee. Wow. Yeah, that's how we're getting those requests all the time. And I thought, no, not the Pat McAfee. And then she did my haircut, and it was exactly how I wanted it. It was the Pat McAfee.
Wow.
Little shorter on the side, little longer on top, and it embarrassed me. And now I got to get a new hairdo. I got to go find a new hairdo.
No, I think you look fantastic. The glasses are great. I think you would be a perfect match. You would be virtuoso in the world of pro wrestling in some sort of capacity. Manager, commentator, behind the scenes, producer, agent, booker. I would love to see it happen. I want to ask you something very, very serious now. Bryce Mitchell, the Bryce Mitchell situation. How do we break this down in the aftermath of it all? This is big time stuff, and everyone, breathe, Chael, breathe. This is a big one, but this is one that I think perhaps on, I don't know, some other shows that you do, you maybe can't get into, and so I want to have an actual frank discussion with you on this one, because obviously this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and I think you may be surprised by my stance, but I would love to get your opinion on how Bryce handled it and how the UFC, in particular Dana White, has handled it.
And I personally had to go through it twice. So it is World War II, Hitler. It is required learning for all high school kids. But when I went to the University of Oregon, it was required learning there too. So I went through this twice. It is so hard when you get to the part of the story that Hitler died. It is one of the biggest letdowns of the story, Ariel, because I wanted to get him. I want him to have him. I want him tried. I want him in a box. I want him, I don't like how he escaped. I don't like it that he got away with this to this regard, right? And I wanted him to have him so bad. I wanted that piece of the story to be redone. Now, I must tell you, I have never heard anybody say, except in satire, what Bryce said. Like I've seen actors that were on TV, Ed Norton in American History X, where he's playing a white supremacist with hate in his heart. He's pretending. That's the only time I've even heard words like this said. I was so pulled back, and I don't really see myself as the guy that's like, oh, I was surprised or I was disappointed. I don't really see myself that way. Ariel, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what he said. And you want to know what was interesting? I don't believe there. No, I don't believe. There was no hate in his heart. When you say words like that, even in even fiction, even where it's written script for performance, the guy, he's got the eyes and he's got the hate in his heart. Bryce did not say it like that. That was just and see, you used to be given when I was growing up, there was always an option. They would say he's racist or he's ignorant. Always. A guy would never just get called racist. They would say, well, he's either racist or he's ignorant. And it was important that you had the ignorant, because sometimes you will meet a stupid person. And when a stupid person says something stupid, it doesn't necessarily make them the other option. Sometimes they're just stupid.
And so what do you...
I'd love to hear your take.
On him in just the first part, because there's like multiple chapters to this story, right? He had a quote-unquote apology. I do think there is hate in his heart. When he says that...
Really?
100%. No.
That would be hard. That would be hard to hear as a Jewish person in your spot. If you felt that, I'm sorry. That's probably
no. That's fine.
Please go ahead. I won't interrupt. Go ahead.
The interpretation is part of the discussion. I'm not offended by what he says because I don't put any value on his opinion. So I don't look to Bryce Mitchell to be my sort of guiding light and moral compass. I know the history. I know who we are. I know what happened. I visited Auschwitz. I've been to Poland. I went to Treblinka. I went to Dachau. I know exactly what it is. I've met survivors, etc. And so when I hear him say things like, the only thing that Hitler wanted to do was rid the Jews of Germany, or rid Germany of the Jews because Jews were turning everyone gay. I mean, it's a nonsensical, stupid thing, and it's to me, it's evil because you are siding with evil, and so I can't give him that pass. But what I would say is I don't want Bryce Mitchell to get fired. I don't want him to get, in trouble or released or anything like that. I just find I was surprised that Dana came out so forceful with his response, because over the last couple of years, he hasn't done that. So you can tell that he was somewhat bothered by this rhetoric. What I'm curious about is the decision to not do anything past that, because ultimately Dana likes to talk about freedom of speech, and he likes to say that in America, you should be allowed to say whatever you want, including hate speech. And he's right. That is the Second Amendment. You cannot be arrested for saying stuff like Bryce Mitchell said. But as the owner and the president of a company, you can make the decision to say, I don't want my company to be associated with this type of rhetoric. I don't want the article on FoxNews.com or CNN.com or the WashingtonPost.com to say UFC fighter Bryce Mitchell said X, Y, and Z about Hitler and the Jews. You can make that decision. And they have chosen not to make that decision, and they have chosen to say, you could say whatever you want here. Now, I think that's a calculated decision until it hits the bottom line and hurts the bottom line, meaning sponsors pull out, ESPN says we don't want to do business with you, or any other prospective broadcaster say we don't want to do business. They will allow this to continue to happen. And I also think, Chael, and I'm sorry for going long here, I think part of the reason why you don't, if you're the UFC, punish a Bryce Mitchell on Thursday is because then on Friday, Conor McGregor is dropping N-bombs, and if you punish Bryce on a Thursday, you got to then do something to Conor, and you don't want to do something to Conor because he's still the biggest draw, and so it's easier to just do nothing and hope that it doesn't affect the bottom line, and guess what? It hasn't, and so they will continue to allow this. it's a very interesting discussion. And I don't have like a final point. I don't have a thesis other than I'm just kind of reacting to what's happening in front of our eyes and somewhat new territory for us as MMA fans.
I really appreciate that, particularly your last two sentences, because I find that with myself as too. I've got very strong opinions and very good observations of this, but I don't quite know my final analysis yet. Ariel, if you were to release Bryce Mitchell, Dana White can now do nothing with Bryce Mitchell. He wouldn't even speak to him again. There is a checks and balances in this, and so if you release a guy, which is the final straw. What have you really done? Did you punish him? Oh yeah, you bet you have. But what did you really do? And now you're letting him do other things, as opposed to if you have him, I suspect that he will be in classes for this. I've seen some things that have happened from gay slur standpoints, and fighters so many times think they can use this word that starts with an F and that it just means wimp. But it doesn't mean wimp, and it really hurts some people's feelings. But I will tell you, the UFC, even if quietly, every one of those guys that use that word started taking classes on it. They would donate some level of money, and there would be events. And I only share with you that while they don't ever talk about that, there is a checks and balances. Bryce Mitchell, whatever sponsors he had, partner, they're gone, and they're not coming back. I mean, there is some real fallout.
Do you think so, Chael? Because I've seen a lot of support for him, if I'm being honest. I've actually seen, I don't know, maybe I'm looking in the wrong places. I've seen more support than criticism, to be honest. Yeah. And so I can imagine there's some like red-blooded, company out there that says this is the guy that we want representing us. So I don't actually know if there's that type of ripple effect for him.
Sure. And yes, I think that you're looking in the wrong spot. Even the demographic that you laid up, like that Southern and that red-blooded, that farmer, all vote red, and the red stands with Israel, not even a maybe. The red is the only one that's never blinked on that. I'm just sharing with you. Before we get too much of a political speech, I think you might have been looking in the wrong spots. Like this is going to be very detrimental to Bryce. Not to mention, Bryce could go lose a couple of fights and maybe still have a contract. He's not in that spot, whether Dana says it or not. Bryce steps out of line one time and gives him the reason to do it without blaming it on this. He's going to be telling his story walking, man. There are checks and balances here, whether the boss chooses to handle it publicly a certain way or not. He is not okay with what was said. That I can assure you.
No, and it did seem authentic. Could I ask, in the early days, you remember Miguel Torres getting released, albeit for a week or so because of a very insensitive joke that he tweeted. You remember Frank Mir losing his Versus job because he said he was going to kill Brock Lesnar. I remember Matt Mitrione on my show making some jokes about Fallon Fox, the transgender fighter, and Dana suspending him. I remember Nate Diaz using that F word and he got slapped on the wrist. That doesn't happen anymore. And so I'm wondering, why do you think that is? Why are there no quote unquote repercussions for these types of actions? And you can make a case that what was said on Thursday was worse than all of that combined.
Well, and Ariel, in light of this, I mean, this is the final bar. Like, there's only a few things in life you can't say. There's a word that starts with an N. There's the word that starts with an F. I have never seen somebody, no matter how smart they were, dance around and then bring Hitler and the Nazis into it. I have never seen that happen. I got held after in class. You want to know what inspired me? I got held after in class one day. I was 20 years old. I was in my sophomore year. And I referred to somebody, and I called him a feminazi. And that was a word that was out there. Somebody was using, I think it was Rush Limbaugh, but somebody was using this term, this feminazi. And the teacher just after class, college is very different than high school where they sit you down or something like that. But he said, why don't you stick around? So I stuck around, and he was a Jewish guy, and he said, I heard you say a term, something Nazi earlier. I said, oh, yeah, feminazi. Yeah, I was proud of my word. And the person that I was upset with, the teacher was also upset with. We were upset at the same person. And he just very calmly, he said to me, do you know what the Nazis did? And I said, yeah. And he goes, do you think comparing that person to the Nazis is adequate? And I never said it again. I learned my lesson, right? There's something that happens in your life when you learn. And I'm only sharing for you. I'm not positive that the Wild West that it appears is going to last. I'm not positive of that. I think there is going to be something that is being put into place now that wasn't previously in place. And then where do you go from there? I don't know that you cut everybody or all of a sudden they don't get TV time or they don't get the opportunity. I'm not sure about that as far as being equitable. But we've had a number of other things all the way down to taxes taxes and insurance and things that it turned out fighters didn't know. And there's classes for all that stuff now. And even though that doesn't get made public, man, all that stuff now has courses you take.
What do you make of what's become of Conor? Every
Can
day.
you appreciate what I just said?
No,
Can you appreciate that?
I love everything about it.
Yeah, because it's hard, right? It's a hard. It makes people uncomfortable. It's hard, and I'm much like you. I don't have a final analysis. I can just tell you, I don't think they're actually looking the other way as much as it might appear.
Yeah, I would like to think so. But again, I think sometimes people think that when I bring this stuff up and talk about it, it's because I want to see a Bryce Mitchell get punished. The only thing I would love to see happen to Bryce Mitchell, honestly, I would love for Bryce Mitchell to go to Poland and spend a day in Auschwitz and tell me afterwards if your research holds up. I don't know where he's finding this stuff, but go there, walk into the gas chambers, look at the scratches on the wall, look at the mountains of ashes, look at the broken glasses and the suitcases and the dolls that they told the kids to pack as they were going on a trip, which was to the gas chambers, to the concentration camps, and then tell me if you think all of this was fake. Tell me if you think all of this was made up. Tell me if you think these numbers are inflated. I would love to ask you, and it's not the same topic, but it's still a bit of an uncomfortable topic. What do you make of Conor, and what do you do with Conor if you're the UFC? Because it does seem like we're in a tricky spot here with him, to put it mildly.
Yeah. Well, and again, I'm glad that you worded like that. And these they are very close, and including my final analysis, which is I'm still open to some debate on this. Historically speaking, criminal. Whatever is going on with the criminal courts, all the way down to if you're dismissed or you got a trial coming up, whatever it is, the organization will recognize that's between you and the courts. But whatever the final with the gavel comes, we're going to go on that. Whether we think you're innocent or we think we're going to honor what the courts do. That's historically, but that is not carried over to civil, and it's really never been tested to this degree. And the accusations and what it was found that he did with the rape and whatnot, it was very different when it was civil. And the intent was not to punish him by taking his time and freedom away. It was to have him write a check to you. I mean, it was just one of these things where nobody really knew how they were going to handle it. And then the ultimate suggestion is to go to Dana and say, hey, got to release the guy. And Dana has a hard time explaining that to the audience. Like, hey, if I'm personally pissed off at the guy, if I release him, there's nothing. I have no ability. Right now, I got him under contract. And if I'm personally upset with him, I don't have to fight him, which, by the way, I'm not. And Dana explained that to a degree, but he was letting people know, like, it's not a matter of release Conor and let Conor go somewhere. If I release him, he goes somewhere else. He becomes a big star for somebody. He's with me, and I'm not using him. He's sitting on Ireland watching the show on pay-per-view like everybody else. Like there's a level of that makes a lot of sense. And I don't always see where we're giving up on a guy or washing your hands of him. I don't really see where that is always the most effective. I don't know that I get that argument.
Do you think we see
and politicians have this too. We have politicians that are mad at Russia. So because they're mad at Russia, they refuse to meet with Putin. And it was Barack Obama himself that came out and said, hey, this idea that we're punishing Putin by not talking to him is not true. Let's sit down. Let's tell our side and see if we can get somewhere. But we're not just going to ignore him like a kid in high school. That's a quote from Barack Obama. I think Obama makes a lot of sense.
No, and I don't think the UFC is going to cut him or release him. I mean, that's bad business if we're just being 100% honest. Do you think we see him fight again? Do you think we see him fight in the UFC again?
Oh, no. Ariel, he pulled out of his last fight, which was a record gate. He beat all of his own gate records. They said they had 25 million waiting for them for the live gate, and they still had $2 million worth of tickets to sale. I mean, I'm just sharing, like, he is over and he is a star, and he was very much needed. And he pulled out of a fight. He pulled out of a press conference where they took an American company to Ireland, played the video game like everybody, and set up shop. I mean, it's a big deal to leave him hanging right there. Ariel, the official reason he did that is for a discolored pinky toe, which may or may not be broken and may or may not be his. He didn't take a picture of himself with the toe. He took a picture of a toe and posted it online, and it was discolored and purple, and I'm sure it was very sore, but with no evidence that it was broken or any evidence that it was even his. If you pull out of a fight because of a discolored pinky toe, which may or not be yours and may or not be broken, you're not fighting again. That's just the truth.
Do you have any interest in him in this, Logan Paul, Jake Paul world, this influencer world? This seems to be of great interest to him.
No, I don't. And a lot of that, though, would come from jealousy. I mean, if I was to look at it and go, hey, wait a minute, you can make $100 million boxing guys that aren't even boxers. Like, there's going to be a part of me that looks at it like that. You're going to pull out of a fight against Chandler, do what you did to Chandler, and then you're going to fall forward into something that I don't want that to be true. I want to be above that. But there would be a part where I go, wow, it's just not generally that way that game is supposed to be played. No, Ariel, you got to understand, whatever adult, and everybody will have this on, every commission, everybody involved in this, whatever adult allows Conor McGregor to return with the same exact injury that Chris Weidman had. Now, Chris Weidman being possibly the most disciplined guy in the sport, Conor being the most undisciplined guy in the sport, Chris Weidman doing everything right, from rehab to taking his time to focusing to being at home at night and going to bed and getting rest on his life. He did everything right and did not return as somebody that could follow the basic rule, which was to protect himself at all times, right? That hindered repaired leg was that big of an obstacle. But we're supposed to believe that Conor not only can return from the same thing, he can return better. And we think he's going to be better because we're not booking him in 3-round fights. We're booking him exclusively in 5-round main events. So he is going to have to perform at a much higher level than the All-American. Ariel, the laws of logic disqualify that. The basic rule is protect yourself at all times. Conor McGregor is not in a position with anybody under contract at the UFC to protect himself at all times. It's a silly proposition, and that is just the truth.
Hey there, sorry to interrupt. Just want to remind you, if you haven't already, please do hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate it very much. And while you're at it, give us a thumbs up too. We've got live shows, interviews, clips, and a whole lot more going on this here channel. All right, now back to the show. I love these chats with you, Chael. I really do. I mean,
but that is just the truth. Like, there's not another way to say it. I also want in on the Conor business. I also want to cover him and have him back. And it's different when he's there. I acknowledge the fun, but if you're talking about any level of responsibility, you can't book him, and you definitely can't book him in a 5-round fight. That's insane.
Will we see Izzy fight again?
Yes, and I say it like that.
Well, yeah, why?
I say it like that because that guy has no idea how. You remember Alexander Gustafsson when he comes out and decides he's going to retire? Mm-hmm. I remember being so irritated. It's like, Gus, you don't know this sport. You're not one of us. Don't act like you're one of us. Gus only did main events. Gus only did 5-round fights. Gus only was headlining or was having to do fights in Sweden where he's carrying the media and the whole gate. It's like, Gus, there's another sport out there. It's called 3-round MMA. But that's a different sport. 5-round MMA, 5-round practice, 5-round run, 5-round training sessions is completely different than 3-round practice, 3-round runs, 3-round training sessions. So it's like, Gus, before you wash your hands of this sport, how about you try it in a way that the rest of us get to experience in a normal situation? And I only say that because Adesanya is a little bit in the same way, Ariel. He has never not main evented. He has not never been on top of the bill. He has not fought for the title since going back. I mean, my goodness, it's when they did 57,000 live and it was him versus Whitaker first time in Australia. That was better part of a half a decade ago. And there is another life out there for 3-round fights. But one thing that Izzy needs is a genuine motivation to want to beat that guy up. He has to have that. That's how Yoel got his opportunity. It's what cost Izzy in the Strickland fight. As much as he tried to get into character, that wasn't the fight he wanted. That wasn't the guy that he was angry at. That was not Dricus du Plessis, and it cost Izzy. And right now, Izzy's got no beef. He's got no heat with anybody. He can try to manufacture it like he did with Strickland or like he did with Imanov over the weekend. But that's not who he is. Like John Jones right now cannot retire. I mean, if you said it, would it be a good time to retire? No, it'd be terrible. He's got an interim champion. Or if you used Alex Pereira, it'd be no, the terrible time to retire. He's got a signed contract with a guy who's favored to beat him. But Izzy doesn't have those things. Izzy's story, if he would like for it to be complete and written, it is. Right now is the perfect time for Izzy to walk away, should he choose to.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, other than the money, you're right. There are no real beefs that need to be played out. And I said this yesterday, and I'd love, who better than you to ask this question? I said that the UFC has a superstar shortage. I don't say they have no superstars on the horizon. They obviously have Topuria. They have Islam. Merab could get there if he continues to win. Sean comes back. We'll see. Sugar, that is. Sean Strickland has a fan base. But I do, with Izzy not around, with Conor not around, with John Jones being on his last chapter, these were superstars over the last few years, right? Do you agree that there's a superstar shortage right now? And by the way, I say this while also acknowledging that the biggest star in the UFC is Dana White, that people adore him, that the biggest draw in the UFC are those three letters. They don't necessarily need superstars. That's the wild thing about all of this. They have become so popular and such a behemoth to our previous conversation that they don't need it. But if you actually just look at the rankings and the pound for pound, there is a bit of a shortage, is there not?
Sure, and you left off Patty the Batty, who not for nothing, but if you want a reaction from the crowd, he's as popular as anybody they got right now. And Ariel, that's very in line with what's going on at WWE right now. Like there are a number of veterans, but as far as having, like, remember when The Rock came back last year, but we really needed him, or the year before that, and The Rock came back, but we really needed him. They've got so many great guys, but I do hear you on that. Like when I was growing up, it was Hulk Hogan and Big Step and everybody else. And at some point, it was the Ultimate Warrior for, about a year and a half. But Big Step down, everyone else. Most of my life, it was Hogan, Ric Flair, Big Step down, though, and everybody else. And I just bring that because, to your point, man, they are doing business. They are turning this thing around. They got a show coming up in Seattle, which is right up the road for me in a couple of weeks. But you got Dominic Cruz on there. You got Henry Cejudo on there. That's going to be on free television. Like, they've got these guys. They have so much talent and so many names. But as far as that superstar, that Conor or that Kimbo Slice, yeah, sure. You're right. They're limited.
Couple more and I'll let you go. Just curious. Backstage in Tampa, you and Hogan, did you talk? Did you kibitz? Did you break bread? Any conversations?
I'm so glad somebody's finally asked me about that.
Oh.
Do you know what that's like in my perspective? So I go and buy tickets with my buddy Justin Wolf in the 6th grade, and we go down in person to G.I. Joe's, which had a Ticketmaster. That used to be the name of the company. I think now it's like Live Nation. And we look at the schematic of the building. And we're only 11. We don't totally understand blueprints. So we got to figure out where the ring is, which way it faces, because we want on the aisle so we can touch the guys. When they walk in, we want to be that's holding up the high five. So we get them. Everything's cool in the gang. Everything is going my way. In fact, not only do I get to see Hulk Hogan wrestle, I get to see him wrestle Andre the Giant.
Wow.
Like, everything is going my way. I touch Andre on his way to the ring. I touch him on the way back. I even turn to my friend Justin. I show him the sweat on my hand from Andre. There's Hogan. Here he is. He's within reach. He's right there. I reach out. Somehow I missed him. Somehow. Oh my God. I couldn't believe. I told my buddy touched him. So I missed him. Like, oh my God, I missed. I don't know how I missed. He's like, how you? Anyway. So then all these years later, I get to be in the locker room with him and on a level working with him. And Ariel, he was so respectful. When he walked in, I thought he and Colby were like old buddies. That's what I just assumed. So when Hogan comes in and Colby comes over and says hello, it was very clear they were just meeting for the first time. So I'm trying to figure out this dynamic. And then Colby tells him, Hulk, when the camera comes on, I want it on you. I'm playing your music when we come out. I want you waving the flag. Me and the team will be right behind you. Get a little bit of a head start. And Hogan stopped him. And Hogan said, this is the very first thing he said. I mean, he doesn't know anyone in the room. And Hogan said, you're going too far. And he said, this is not my night. This is your night. I back you up. And he refused to go out first. And it turned into a thing where Colby's like, well, I actually know I want this played, and then I'm going to come rip the shirt off. Like, I got that, but it's important that you go first holding the flag. And Hogan said, I will not do it.
Wow.
And they compromised that Hogan would go side by side with him. But Hogan would absolutely not go in front. And I just thought that was incredible leadership I thought for him to walk into a room where he was a little bit caught off guard and then turn down some of the lights, I was impressed. That might sound like a simple move. It was a cool move.
Do you want to see Colby fight again?
Yes, for goodness sakes. I mean, here's the thing. That fight was starting to go so well. I mean, it really was. And no one knows what the ceiling is on Joaquin Buckley. Like, we don't have evidence yet that he's not going to be a world champion. He's incredible. Colby's got his flap of skin. It's hanging down over his eye. So there's blood pouring out you can't see anyway, but then there's a flap of skin that is blocking. Like, if you made all the blood stop, you can't see because you got a flap of skin. The reason that George Masvidal won his first fight with Colby in the streets and he lost his second fight with Colby in the ring is because Colby couldn't see him the first time. He came up from behind in disguise. Like, if you want to, and then it's not even close when Colby can't see him. Like, it's not too much for me to want my guy to be able to see. Right? I mean, that's not like some big request by me. So Colby goes out there. It's still going his way. He's still upset when that fight gets stopped. He's completely fresh. I mean, I'm talking to him in the ring. He could go 2 more rounds very easily. I'm just sharing, like, he is so damn tough, and he was even tougher than I knew he was. I've known him his whole life. I did not know he was that. I didn't know he was the guy that could fight with his eyeball falling out. They had to take him in the back, 2 different doctors, Dr. Davidson and the head doctor in Florida, and it was a 2-man crew where they're sewing him up and trying to get all of this to stop. I mean, it was a very big deal. He didn't mind. He didn't mind at all. He was just mad he didn't win the fight, and he doesn't need to fight again. But will he likely fight again? Yes. Will he likely fight again against Gilbert Burns?
Oh.
Also a yes.
Okay. A little bit of news. Last thing. You told our guy Drake yesterday that you got this offer from GFL. They wanted you, but you have to know when to say when. Did you seriously consider it? Did you have a chat with the family? Were you close to saying yes and then change your mind? Or was it just one of those, hey, I'm flattered, thank you, but I'm out?
Yeah, and boy, I wish I had a better story to tell you. No, it wasn't like that. And by the way, I don't fully know what the GFL was proposing. I never fully understood if it was a promotional standpoint,
okay,
maybe through the YouTube or the podcast and just get them out there. Maybe it was be live and help to commentate. And maybe it was to coach a team or to go right on the roster. I wasn't completely clear, but I was glad that they called. I mean, not for nothing. They were calling all these other guys, and I was hearing about it. My phone hadn't rang yet. And then you start to feel a little bit left out. That's true. And no. So, no, there wasn't a massive consideration. I don't fully know what they need. And I could not imagine doing anything again. I've always felt like my career would not be over until I had fought Wanderlei Silva and Vitor Belfort. And I can't fully tell you why, but I had always thought that. In fact, John Anik even said that to me way over in our Fox days. He said, well, Chael, your career will never be complete. Till you rematch Anderson Silva, you fight Wanderlei, and you fight Vitor Belfort. And I just accepted that. When he said it in that moment, that became my destiny. And I never had the Vitor fight. And it does cross my mind. From time to time, it will cross my mind and think, how did we never quite match up? We had a contract one time. We had a signed contract. But how did we never quite match up? So that one would be the one that would make me at least think, or as you say, sit down with the family. You know, I don't really sit down with the family. I'm in charge of this family.
Sure.
I don't need to ask anyone what they do. They come to me. There's a reason they call me daddy, Ariel. You understand that?
No, I understand.
Daddy will make those decisions. But sometimes I pretend that I want to hear from them.
Chael, there's a young man who works on my my program here. We have a great team here at Uncrowned. We're building a great thing here. I don't know if you've heard about it, but his name is Jordan Kamzan. We call him On Air Jordan. And I don't know if you know this, but he used to work at ESPN with Corporate Jake and Elizabeth and Nick and the whole team over there. And there was he was a producer, worked on our show. And you used to hit him up from time to time, thinking, he told this story on the program last week, thinking that he is who? Jordan Coker. Yes, the son of Scott Coker. So you would ask him for Bellator footage. He told us this great story on the program. And so he's in the back. He's in the control room right now. Is there anything you want to say? He actually would, I think he would keep the jig up. I don't think he would.
I got him right here.
There it is. Yeah.
I have my text message with him right here.
Did he not reply?
Can I just jump? Yeah, can I just jump in on your story real fast?
Go ahead, yeah.
So precisely what you said, but I was building Submission Underground. And the reason that's relevant is the UFC owns that. So when I would go to him and need this content, the UFC would say to me, it would be this beautiful Bellator content. And they're like, are you sure we have the right to do this? It's like, absolutely. This is straight from Jordan Coker. And that was it. They didn't make me supply or prove or get, a lot of times they like a little something signed. When it came from Jordan, man, that was it. And he was so good. He was so Johnny on the spot where I'm trying to edit something or he would get that stuff back. It could be a Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Jordan would turn these things around and get them to me. So then I find out over time that that's Jordan from ESPN, which I guess got saved in my phone just as Jordan. It's not Jordan Coker's number. Turned out I don't even have Jordan Coker's number. And yeah, that's the story. I think that's the one that you just told.
Yes,
but that's
this
the story.
is it.
And I've always been so appreciative that Jordan never treated me. I mean, if I bother him on a Sunday at 8 a.m., it's work for him, and he would always do it. And it's like, I've never even thanked him properly, but I was very grateful and still am.
Well, there you have it. He writes on the screen right there, let him know if you need more Bellator footage. He's
That's
here.
Awesome.
And
that is so funny.
I think he appreciates the thank you. And I thought you were wondering maybe perhaps what happened to him. Now you know. He's a part of the team here.
I appreciate that. I was wondering. I know that you guys are building something great. So it doesn't surprise me that you got great people like Jordan. You got a great staff all around, by the way. I was talking with Eric earlier today. I mean, all around you got a great staff. I really saw that the first time. First off, you've invited me in to the new vertical, as you call it. But yep. I got to be part of your debut out in Las Vegas.
Oh, that was fun.
And got to see the team when they came in numbers to get that right. Boy, did they pull that off. They really respected you in this program, by the way. That rollout that they gave you, wow.
That was nice of you to do. We've shared many great memories. Of course, who can forget the beef short rib that we shared with Liev Schreiber just a couple of months ago at the Teddy Atlas Foundation dinner. That was a great time. One of the many great nights that we've had together, Chael. He was
very nice.
It was great.
He was very nice, that guy.
He was amazing. And I loved how excited you were to speak to him. I don't often see you excited. And then the highlight of my night was one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time, coach of the two-time defending national champion UConn Huskies, Dan Hurley, the great Dan Hurley, just glowing, giddy over the idea of getting to shake your hand and meet you. And I was able to make that introduction. This guy is an uber fan of yours and a legend of the college basketball game, two-time defending national champion, wanting to meet you above all the legends up there. That was a delight.
I'm sorry to shake my head, yes, but yeah, you introduced it, and that did make me feel good. I had no idea that he would, and basketball and MMA don't always cross over, or maybe I don't say the nicest things about basketball. He knew that. He knew the things I said about basketball, but he was still into it. Now, that was a big thrill. That was a real thrill to meet him, but boy, did Teddy Atlas ever pull that event off. I met Larry Holmes that night. In fact, Larry was rude to me. Michael Spinks, who fought Mike Tyson for 91 seconds back when I was a little kid, man. These guys were all there. It was really cool. Arturo Gotti had his son was there. Yes. Yeah, it was awesome, man. That was a heck of an event. And Lee was so nice, by the way. He was such a regular guy, and that does not happen very often. There's generally is something like, be careful when you meet these guys because you leave disappointed. He was so normal. He was just having a conversation with a regular guy. That was great. That really was great to sit by him.
Yeah, and a real fight fan, too. It was amazing. Chael, I love you like a brother. Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless your family. I don't know if your wife is still there, but my regards to her as well. And thank you for the time. Thank you for the time. And we look forward to The Ultimate Fighter. When do you go out there?
You want to say hi to Ariel? Oh, come on.
She's still here one whole hour?
She's too embarrassed. Will you just say hi?
Come on, Miss Brittany. Say hi. Don't be shy. Come on.
She's not coming. I can tell. She has that look on her face where she's really...
She's like, drop it.
Coming. Thank you for wishing me the luck on the Ultimate Fighter. Don't need it. It's just Daniel, but we will have a good time. I will get my guys and most likely his guys in a right position so that they can be ready for the UFC, and that's what this is all about. Thank you, Helwani. Peace out, Chael. Thank you so much. Good luck to you. Kaboom. There he is, the great Chael P. Sonnen. One of the great friends in my life, despite some of our differences, has been nothing but a true loyal friend, and I hope he feels the same about me.
Thanks for watching this video. Before you go, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for us. Also, give us a thumbs up, leave a nice comment. These things go a long way. And while you're here, do check out the rest of the channel. We've got live shows and full interviews, clips, and a whole lot more. We're doing big things here, and we appreciate your support very much.